Hello everybody, Dr. Blue here. Before the review starts, I just wanted to mention I am looking to you guys, my audience, for body actors. I'm making a show of sorts in Grand Theft Auto 5 and I've attached a form down below. If you are interested in working with me and a fellow creator, as well as some of the fans, please fill out the form and you'll most likely be able to take part in the show. I'll mention this again at the end, but thank you for listening and enjoy the review. Hello everybody, Dr. Blue here. Yes, that is the Dr. Blue intro in the background. Please ignore it as I blur it out. Anyway, I know you've been waiting for this a long time, but today we are going to be reviewing Halo 5 Guardians. As you guys are well aware by now, we give the game a rating from 1 to 10 with a word alongside each number to represent my overall thoughts on the game. As usual, we'll go through the segments from first impressions to the features segment, then to the long sought after criticism segment, through to the overall thoughts, and finally a true rating, followed by whether I think you should buy the game or not. So, let's get into it. So, first impressions of this game were brought to us by the trailers. Trailers that seemed to push forward the fact that Master Chief and Spartan Locke were engaged in this huge battle for the custody of Master Chief as he had defied justice and was wanted by the UNSC for his crimes.
The one who was supposed to save us all. But now I must save us. From you.
Except that's not really how it went down, which we'll get to later. But before we start bugging the game down with the negatives, let's look at the positives. We finally got to play as two sets of Spartan teams, which are kinda cool. You had people coming back, such as Buck, who finally became a Spartan because, let's be honest, we all know he's good enough. And there were other Spartans, both with Master Chief and Spartan Locke, because in the old games you just play as Master Chief and you were alone throughout the whole thing. It was nice to have some bloody backup for once. And to be honest, although this is an unpopular opinion, I liked playing as Locke instead of Chief for a change. We didn't have, the monotone, emotionless voice of Chief. Playing as Locke gave the game a bit of life and a bit of emotion instead of the strong, silent type that Master Chief gives us, which, although can be cool at first, gets a bit boring after a few games of it. And I know, he got his emotions sucked out of him during the Spartan training, but it doesn't change my opinion. And also, a lot of the scenes that were later in the game that were supposed to be action-packed kind of really felt that way. Like when one of the Guardians appeared and the whole building was coming down, and that felt really fun to me. It was really immersive. Also, that scene where you race down the back of a Guardian felt really intense. I was just flying by enemies, shooting them occasionally if I got the shot off, and it felt awesome. I felt like I actually had a rush to, a bit of a time limit to go. It's got such a long spine, like, jeez, man. Up, shit. Let's go. Go. It's shifting its back and shit. I think it's a grenade. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm still going. I will get off this Guardian. I tell you, the action was not missing from this game. And also, the cinematic graphics were amazing. Some of the cutscenes where the Spartans aren't wearing their helmets looks incredible. You can physically see the texture of their skin or how sweaty or dry they are, and they definitely put effort into these cutscenes, and it really pays off. Some of the new abilities, like the thrusters, recently replaced all the old armor abilities, like the dreaded armor lock and active camo and stuff like that. Now, although some of those are still in the game, they are largely inactive now, and thrusters have kind of taken their place. And as much as it disappointed me that they were gone, the thrusters actually impressed me. You could do so much with them. You could hover in the air, Spartan ground pound, use them to run faster, melee harder, and abilities like sprint that were added to every Spartan as a given now. Active camo is an ability that's been thrown in the games as a power-up sometimes. The evade the elites had is now replaceable with the thrusters by using them to dodge side to side. Armor lock is gone, but I don't think too many people are upset about that. Drop shield, however, has been removed, sadly. Hologram is also gone, and as is jetpack. So a few abilities were removed, but it hasn't phased the game as much as I thought it would. Although I do feel there's been a bit of a drop in strategy in the game because of that. Like, the game is more about getting that first shot off now, rather than saving yourself with a drop shield, which kind of gives the game a bit of an edge, especially in the competitive nature of multiplayer now. The multiplayer when the game was launched was barren, and a lot of content was missing that were in previous games. But after all the updates and the free DLC for it, the multiplayer can be really competitive and keep you on the edge of your seat. And when playing these games, you really have to focus, because I tell you, the players in Halo 5 are no joke. It's also very addicting, with my favourite mode, which is Breakout, which they did ruin a little bit by changing the loadouts, but it's still decent and very intense and very fun. But now, as I make these good points, I find myself often coming back with bad points about them too. So let me explain. So I wanted to mention how the constant DLCs that the game was coming with were making the game very enjoyable and adding to the vast armor collection that was out there. But the negatives, I feel, outweigh the positives here. and that is the huge grind that it would take to collect all those items. An honourable mention, Angry Joe covered Halo 5 Guardians when it first came out and went on to review it, and he complained about the microtransactions, which I agree with. He did the math and found out that it would take 3.4 million rec points to unlock every customization option in terms of cosmetics, which doesn't count things like loadout weapons that you can get. But now, after all the DLC packs that have been added, there's going to be so much more to that grind. I've not really done the math myself because I don't know how he did it, but considering the clip from Angry Joe, there is about 175 helmets when he reviewed it, and now when I'm reviewing it, there's about 240 helmets. And I don't have all the numbers, but you can imagine there's probably a lot more armor sets, visors, weapon certs, assassinations, poses, emblems, and much more. But it just enforces that grind so much more, and it makes the grind so much more real. And the reason they do this is that people will pay money instead of actually playing the game, which I can understand but not agree with. See, what I mean by this is Halo 5 had all this new DLC added to it, and they could do that through the funding they get from fans buying these packs. So, in a way, it can support the new DLC being added to the game, much like GTA 5 does with their shark cards. And whilst I enjoy playing the new DLCs, I would never purchase these microtransactions myself. Because if you buy all the armor in the game, what's the point in playing the game anymore? If you've done everything, bought everything. I don't agree with microtransactions, they're a scam, but I can understand how people fall for the trick, and I can see how people might buy them, but you shouldn't. And I don't approve of them, but I can see how people can rationalize it, but you shouldn't. But apart from that, the enemies are really freaky and cool to look at and fight at first, but after a while it just becomes a bit repetitive, especially in multiplayer. And it's just like the same enemies coming again and again, and it's just boring. And in the one player, there's an instance where if you try and hijack a ghost from a boss, you physically can't because the game tries to ramp up the difficulty. If I'm able to make it all the way over there and board that ghost, I should be allowed to. You know, I've managed to get the skill together to board that ghost, so you should let me. The difficulty settings in multiplayer were kind of replaced by the fact that it was just taking away abilities from you, which I think is a bit dumb. I also wanted to do a Halo 5 guide on how to get all the pieces of intel, because in the last few games their intel hasn't been as heavy as this one, but in this game there's over 100 pieces of intel and extra collectibles, which is just so much that I ended up not doing it. And as I mentioned before, in Warzone, when you fight against the AI, they changed the rules of the game to ramp up the difficulty. If you want to board an enemy ghost in Warzone Firefight, you can't. They simply don't allow it. Now, when changing difficulty, the only thing you should ever change is the AI's intelligence, strategy, damage, health, and other statistical advantages like that. You don't go around changing the rules of the game because people get too good. If I manage to trap a ghost or rush it, I should be allowed to board it and capture that ghost, but they changed the rules of the game, which I don't really think is fair. If you can fight through a battalion of troops to get to the boss's wraith, then you should be allowed to board. You should be allowed to plant a grenade and blow him up and win the game. But no, they'll just back away from you and blow you up because you can't board it. The multiplayer just felt so dry and repetitive, especially in Warzone Firefight. The only really good modes were the competitive modes, but even then you had to be really on the edge of your seat and really focus. It was either all competitive, or you go in Warzone Firefight and you just get your ass handed to you by the AI because they want to change the rules of the game. Also, some of the missions through the campaign weren't even missions. I think it was maybe around 4 of the missions were short walking around missions, and you talk to someone and then it's over. But walking around missions were merely to strengthen the amount of missions there was in the list. There's kind of more missions but less content. And around 3 of them you got to play as Master Chief. And I know people are angry that you didn't play as Master Chief as much, but I have to admit, I enjoyed the new character. The Forge, whilst absolutely beautiful, even though it wasn't with the game on release, which emphasizes my point on this game being rushed. While the Forge is so beautiful, it's kind of really anti-user friendly. I love the Halo Reach Forge. I could use it for hours and constantly come up with new base ideas, and while this Forge is so much more detailed and there's so much more in terms of capability, it just lacks the user-friendly aspect, and it's pushed many forgers away from Halo 5, including myself. I used to be a big forger. I was a forger when I started my Facebook page, but in these new forges, it's just so anti-user friendly that I don't enjoy using the forge anymore. The AI on your team could also be really dumb sometimes in terms of revives. I can't remember the amount of times I yelled at Yale for messing shit up. There's a lot of people such as Locke that have huge backstories, and that's all well and good, but those stories are only really known by people that are big on the Halo lore and comics and books, which isn't terrible, but for someone like me who's only played the game, I didn't have a clue who these people were, and sometimes I struggled keeping up with the story. And perhaps my biggest and final criticism of this game is the absolute short truth, flat out lie that the game was about Master Chief being chased across the galaxy by Spartan Locke. The real story is that Cortana has gone rogue and tries to kidnap Master Chief and rule the galaxy with his huge guardians, acting as immoral and corrupt galactic police which would crush all civilization if there was too much crime on our planet. I don't know why in the trailers they didn't advertise that instead, because while the chase was fun while it lasted, the fight between them was maybe a couple of punches, if that. Where's Chief? Where the fuck is Chief? Chief! Chief! Right, listen here, Chief. Listen up. You're under arrest. You're under arrest.
Sir, you are absent without leave. This is your one chance to come home peacefully.
What was that? What was that, Chief?
Stand down.
Bleaching, where the fuck you come back here? Chief!
Is our concern now, sir.
Like hell she is.
You fucking what? Get him, Locke, get him! I mean, get him, Chief! I don't know who to support right now. How dare you, Chief? How dare you? I played with you. I played with you in the previous Halo games. How can you hurt me? Chief, no. Come here, bitch. Come here. Fucking. Behave yourself. You're coming to prison. Oh shit, I cracked his visor. You're about to be stuck, bitch. I will defeat you, Chief. I will. Son of a bitch. Damn it, Chief. I'll get you for this. I'll get you. Don't you run from me. I'll come back for you. Just the trailers were so misleading for this game, it really knocks the quality for me. I feel that they really should have advertised the real story, because the real story was actually kind of cool, exciting, but because they just led this absolute short truth to just build the hype train, it just lets the game down so much. Overall, I feel this game did really well in place of graphics and cutscenes, but I felt that some parts like the mini missions were just signs of laziness or a rush to get this game out and on sale. And they tried to patch this up with DLC and go the more esport route, which is fine, but I feel like the story and general multiplayer suffered for it. So for a true rating of this game as it is now, after all the DLCs, I'm gonna have to give it a 5. I really don't feel that these DLCs were improvements. They just felt like patches rather than extra content. Stuff that should have been in the game from day one, but they just released it disguised as extra DLC. I believe Angry Joe gave something around that mark, maybe a 6 or a 5, I don't remember exactly, but the game hasn't improved. I'm sorry. Should you buy this game? I have a really hard time saying yes. If you were to buy this game, I'd treat it more of a party game, or if you really want to be kind of a competitive multiplayer rather than an actually thrilling story, I'd treat it as a hardcore multiplayer game. So I'm gonna have to say no. I can't recommend that you buy this game, and I can't promise that you'll enjoy it because there's a good chance you won't. But I'm not saying stay away from this game. It does well in some parts, but there's just so many shortcomings I cannot make a good recommendation. Anyway, that has been it from me. It's been a short while since I've done this outro, but thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. I've been Dr. Blue. You've been my audience. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys for watching the Halo 5 Guardians Blue review. I hope you enjoyed it. Shadow Mordor is next, so look forward to that. Really quick before I go, I just want to remind you guys of what I said at the start. I am looking for body actors for the new show that I'm making. The link to the Google Doc for you to fill out is down below. But anyway, appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.